Today, I'm kind of pissed. I don't know what it is. But we're going to alchemize that energy in a good video so you can finally free yourself from the guilt and the shame that you have been feeling. Because just as the elephant that was held captivated for years and years and didn't walk away when it was finally free, that is the exact same thing that guilt does to you. The mind thinks it's still trapped, while it's actually free. And that's why we're going to discuss how you free yourself from the guilt and shame that you have been carrying with you for way too long. So let's get into the video. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what is shame, because a lot of people think that shame is an emotion. And this is something that I had to realize for myself. Because if you feel into yourself and you feel into your body when you are ashamed, it doesn't feel like an emotion. It feels like your whole body is reacting to a circumstance or a trigger, right? It is, for me, how I explain it is, it feels like you want to run away from yourself. And that is what actually happens. You want to disconnect yourself from the parts that you have deemed to be unacceptable. That is what happens. So how did we get there? So it's funny because it's actually the same part of the brain that I discussed in an early video about not giving a fuck about the opinions of others. And it is the same part of the brain that is creating this reaction through your nervous system. It is the reptilian brain. It is the oldest part of the brain that wants to keep you safe. Its only purpose is to keep you alive. But it's programmed to see danger in things that are not necessarily dangerous anymore. We are programmed by the things that we've learned while growing up. So part of the shame and the guilt that we carry with us is inherited, right? So from a young age, we get told what is accepted and what is not accepted. And when you become aware of yourself and your surroundings, you're going to actually mirror the reactions of people around you that teach you what is good and bad. And that specific parts of yourself you're going to hide, because the danger in that could be that the tribe, back in the days, the oldest part of the brain, would ostracize you. And back then, it meant that you would die. So your brain is still programmed to think that it's going to die when you expose certain parts of yourself that you have deemed unacceptable because you have learned that they are unacceptable. Now, of course, certain things are unacceptable, okay? But let's focus on what that does to the system, how we carrying it with us, and how we move forward from that. That is the most important thing, right? So a little more about the parts that we hide of ourselves to show you what kind of parts that could be. It could be your sexuality, it could be the way you feel or really think about certain things. It could be your voice, it could be your ambitions, your dreams and desires. There's a lot of things you start to disconnect from if in one kind of way you've learned that they are unacceptable. So you're going to disconnect yourself from those parts to stay acceptable and palatable, because that's what it is. You don't want to be ostracized. You don't want disconnection because you are programmed to be dependent on the people around you. And the sneaky thing about shame is that it attaches itself on not only your regrets, but also on things that weren't even your responsibility. Certain violations, things that crossed your boundaries, where you just assumed that they were your fault. What I mean with that is that sometimes things happen to you that were outside of your control, and you still feel the shame and the guilt of it because you assumed that it was your fault. And all those things, a combination of those things, your regrets, but also the things that happened outside of your control or responsibility, those things become this hidden data that you don't want to share out of fear that people will leave you if they know those things. The thing is about this whole shame and guilt thing that is becoming this dark cloud, and it's often kept hidden. And that is the exact thing. Shame and guilt feeds on secrecy, on hidden things, on things that live in the dark. That is where it grows. That is where it accelerates. To move through that, we have to open it up. And I will explain you how I did that for myself, okay? So I will tell a little bit about my story, and then we will navigate it together so you can finally stop carrying this throughout your life, because it's really, it's holding you back from a lot of things. That is what it does. It is constantly creating this rejection of the self, and it can really make you sick and feel small constantly, So we need to address it. Like I said before, it thrives on secrecy. It thrives in the darkness. It thrives as long it is unspoken. And you begin to believe that it is a part of your identity. Well, it is just a part of who you have to become. So let me go a little bit into my story to show you how I do that, okay? I come from a very dark background, okay? From basically the age of 0, I was thrown into a dark black hole. It was funny because it's not funny, but it's not funny at all. I was thinking about this scene where he said, "Oh, you think darkness is your alley? I was born in it, molded by it. And by the time I saw the light, I was already a grown man. And by then, it was nothing else but blinding to me." And I was thinking about this because there are not many things that are more relatable. Oh my God. Oh, it sounds terrible, but it's just the truth. Anyway, so dark background, and we were exposed. Let me talk for myself, yeah? Why I say we is because I come from a family of 10 children. Mother was alone. We had different fathers. Anyways, it was dark, We were exposed to a lot of things that are just like, you cannot even imagine yourself, okay? So a lot of weird things happened, right? Even in the household and stuff like that. But I was raised between my home and different border schools. So I was like all over the cities always, and I had different caretakers. And then I was back home again. And then I was outside of the home again. And there's so many stories to tell regarding to that. But point being is I was in border school and I had like a sexual experience. Well, I didn't have, and I was like 11, 12, 13, I don't know, somewhere around that age. And border school, there was all like kids together that were all like very disturbed and exposed to very weird stuff. But apart from that, it is normal that on that age you're going to, getting a little itch, stuff like that. It's normal. But, that's why we have to shine light on things that are living in the darkness so we can just see it for what it is. Or else it's going to be this big, scary monster. And it's just, if you put the light on, it's just nothing. So I was in this border school and I had my first sexual experience. I was like exploring stuff with this guy, and like we were both kids, following our impulses and our hormones. Very normal if you really think about it. And the logic of it is also, let me just not go directly into the logic. First of all, I had this experience and I was just like exploring, and this leader of the group, how do you call that? I don't even know. This caretaker came inside of the room and he saw us doing whatever, doing our thing now. And it was this big thing. And there was so much shame around it. And it was very weird because we were obviously enjoying ourselves. Like I said, we were just kids and exploring, and we didn't feel that there was nothing. If you really think about it, was nothing. We did nothing wrong. And for a long time, I was so ashamed of that. But why did that happen? Because this man came in and it was totally blown out of proportion. It was very confusing because I was like, I was enjoying myself, but it was very unpleasant, and that's softly. On top of that, of course, they called my mother and stuff. My mother told my sisters, and my sisters began to spread it through the whole neighborhood. It was this whole thing, and I didn't understand it, but it just turned into this deep shame because, I don't know, I know it formed a lot of shame within me. And later, when I got older, I start to look at the situation and a couple of other situations that, where when you look at it, when you really look at it, what I said, like it lives in the dark and it forms this big thing, and you think this is a part of your identity of being wrong. And well, you just look at it and you shine a light on it. What actually happened? What actually happened? What was the situation? Okay, I was a kid. I was 12, 13 years old. I don't know, somewhere around the age of 10 and 13. I had a sexual experience. I was exploring myself. That's normal at that age. You know, your hormones are going off the chain, going all kind of directions, and you start to explore. On top of that, I was in an environment with all types of kids. Like, we were already watching like porn and stuff when we were only 5. Like, we were staying up in the night. We saw these weird things, and we saw our parents doing weird stuff, and it was just like a big exposure to all kind of sexual things, you know. So those things combined, on top of that, being in a border school with all sorts of kids that were also exposed to all kind of things without any navigation of adults, because the way they handle it, if you watch this, you're an idiot. You are not equipped to work with children. If that is how you react to certain situations, you should educate kids and teach them things, you know. You cannot expect to put all kind of children in puberty in one home, don't guide them, don't teach them anything, and expect that they are not going to explore. It is healthy, it's normal. But fast forward, really looking into the situation as I got older and I did a lot of inner work, I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Which kind of situation was I in? What was my age? What was the way I thought? What were the things that happened to me? How did they deal with it? Like, it all started to form into something entirely different that was holding me captivated all this time, just by shining a light on it and seeing it for what it really was. And I did that with many things, because now, of course, you was a kid and stuff, but it can also happen that, for example, you had a sexual experience with someone when you was out of your mind drunk, and you had a sexual experience with someone that you didn't want to, or like after that you think like, oh, it was not really necessary, or you feel ashamed of yourself, or you even feel sick because you made a decision in a situation where you was out of yourself, right? Even then, the same thing applies. Look realistically at the situation and see it for what it is. What were the circumstances? How did you feel? What happened before that? Why? What led to that situation? All those things. Shine light on it. See it for what it is. Okay? And then be very compassionate towards yourself. Because mistakes are the only things that make sure that we grow and evolve as humans. So give yourself some grace, whatever it is. Because the fact that you feel guilty or ashamed about it means that you can look at it now from a different perspective. And that means you have an opportunity to grow. And you can only grow if you pull those things out of the dark and you allow yourself to shine a light on it. And stop feeding it with secrecy. Stop feeding it with isolation. Stop feeding it with darkness. Because that is, again, where it thrives. And that is why you are as sick as your secrets. Because if you take this with you, this feeling of shame and guilt, it is going to intoxicating your whole system. Because you will never believe that you are worthy of anything, and you will never believe that you are worthy of a new life, of a new way of seeing things, as long as you let yourself held captivated by this monster. Secrets, if you keep them in the dark, they will suffocate you. And guilt is not always a sign of morality. It is just a sign of the fact that you are still identifying with a version of yourself that is already gone, with a version of yourself that didn't know better. And it feels sort of righteous because it mimics responsibility. But all you do is holding yourself back from growth, actual growth. And that is it sometimes energetically. Guilt is the easiest way to feel as if you are doing something while you are not actually changing. It is a weaponized emotion to keep you away from evolving. Feeling bad doesn't make you good. And taking responsibility isn't chaining you to the past. It is allowing yourself to grow from it. You made decisions at that time from the level of awareness you had. And that version of you didn't need shame. She or he needed safety. And if you keep tying yourself to a version of yourself that most likely abandoned yourself in that specific situation, probably the things that you did or accepted back then were a direct reflection of self-abandonment. You have to give yourself some space and grace to be human. So again, look realistically at the stage you were in while making certain decisions. And see it for what it is. Use that data to become a better person. You have the right to do so. That's what you're here for. Be more compassionate to yourself, towards yourself, and towards the people around you, because that's the thing, right? We learn obedience and compassion by the things we suffer. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. Everybody has. So if people judge you harshly, it is often just because they didn't accept the humanness within themselves yet. Think about it. And it's also the other way around. Maybe the fact that you cannot forgive yourself is because you judged others harshly. And that means that you didn't accept your own humanness yet. So people that judge others in a harsh way, there's nothing wrong with judgment, but I will make another video about that. But in a harsh, unforgiving way. Let me be clear, some things are unforgivable, but I'm talking about if a person made mistakes and genuinely wants to grow and become a better person. The people that judge those people harshly are often rejecting their own shadows. So now you're here, my love. You are awake. You see it clearly. Now you know better. Now you can do better. And even if you knew better at that moment, you still have the right to know even better in a later stadium of life and learn more and come into more of who you are. That is your journey. Own it. And don't mistake punishment with growth. Because deep down, you still believe that you have to suffer to be worthy of the things you truly desire. You still believe that you have to suffer for the mistakes you made in a mind state that is long gone. And that belief creates a rejection of self. And it will stagnate you in everything you do, in everything you want. So can you feel worthy without being perfect? Forgiveness isn't about saying it was okay what happened. It is about saying that you will choose different from now on. That you will decide different from now on. You don't have to keep paying the price that is already paid for a long time, with years of self-hate, shame, destruction. You paid your debt along. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pissed off. Oh, I realized myself that I started that way, and it was like, oh my God. The video stopped in the middle, and it was like, I think 40 minutes. I hope I can get it out the same, because, I just talk. I have a couple of bullet points, and I just talk from the heart, basically. But this feeling if you do a voice memo, you're all excited, and then something goes wrong, and you have to do it with the same energy. Oh my God. Anyways, I'm going to do my best for you guys, because it's valuable. I think I was somewhere around that you already paid the price for the things that happened while you was in a different mind state, right? Okay, let's pick it up from there. So don't see yourself as a bad person, okay? Just see it for what it is. You most likely felt unseen, unloved, unheard, confused, or a combination of all those things. And you navigated the world with the tools that you had at that moment. The only thing you should be ashamed of is if you don't grow at all. If you don't grow from your mistakes, but you just keep looping them. That is where it begins to become questionable, okay? But other than that, you are on your way. And the pain of regret that you feel right now is just a sign that you have evolved, that you're not that person anymore. Or else it would feel totally normal to you. So instead of replaying the same thing over and over again, ask yourself, what do you know now in this moment, and how do you want to move forward? Because the things that happened when you didn't know better are not the things that are defining you. What defines you is who you are now. The decisions that you make moving forward after those situations. So what do you do with it? So how do we do that practically, right? Because that's very important, so we can finally move forward. First of all, you want to deconstruct the environment where it thrives. And that is the darkness in secrecy. So you want to bring it to the light. First of all, for yourself, sit with it. And separate what's yours to carry and the things that were an effect of a lack of safety, a lack of education, a lack of things that you needed, confusion. So you are left with the things that you can actually do something with, okay? And then look at it realistically. Reclaim your authority of it. Write it down. Get it out there. If you have someone in your environment that you can really trust, and be careful with that, make sure that you can really trust that person. Even take the opportunity to ask them, can I share this with you because I'm struggling with the shame? And if you can tell that person, you will see it's going to feel so much lighter in your system. Because now you allow someone to witness you in that shame and still feel loved. That is very important. Then it loses its grip over you. Because you now see that you're still lovable, even with making mistakes, even being imperfect. If you don't have this type of person, just write it down for yourself, or a combination of those two. Write it down. Shine a light on it. What exactly happened? What was the actual situation? What was the mind state you were in? What did you feel? What was the cause of it? What brought you to that situation? What happened before that? Or even maybe throughout your whole life. Look at it from a broader perspective. And look at it realistically. You didn't know better. You did the best with what you had at that moment. And even if you could have done better, great. Then now you have the data and the information that you can use moving forward. That is the only thing you can do with it. Learn from it and keep it moving. That's life. Allow yourself to be human. Sometimes there is no other way than making a big mistake to change the course of your life. And that's what you see. Some things are going so quick and you just think like, what came over me or what was I thinking? Well, more than often that means that it had to happen for your evolution, to grow. Then think of a person that you really love deeply. We all have this person in our life that can do no wrong. Keep that person in mind, even if you have a kid or a friend or your parents, your grandma, anyone. And picture yourself, that person coming to you with the exact same story in the exact same circumstances. How would you respond? If that person came to you with that story, your story, how would you respond? And then treat yourself with the same love and compassion as you would do with them, because you are worthy of the same love, the same forgiveness, the same empathy, the same compassion. You are worthy of it all, and you can give that back to yourself. Give yourself that gift of compassion. Carry yourself with grace. Allow yourself to become better. And keep shining light on the fullness of the story. If you pull it out of the dark, you take the opportunity to gain more understanding around the full scope of what happened. And every time that guilt or a certain shame pops up back into your reality, make a conscious decision to change your behavior, to receive yourself in a different way, to have compassion, to have understanding. That is how you reclaim your freedom. That is how you alchemize that energy, by taking another direction, moving through it, and then choose to carry yourself differently. Also, if you really hurt people, in that case, you will also need to take responsibility to create a safe space for those people, Just tell them, like, it's safe to get it off your chest. If I hurt you, let's look at it together, What do you need from me? There's great power in that. Great responsibility. Ask them, are you open for conversation? Or even write a letter or a message, anything. Without expecting anything. Don't expect forgiveness. Just signal to yourself that you are not that person anymore and that you are energetically closing the loop. You will feel so much lighter when you do that. And if you cannot talk to the person directly, just write it down for yourself again. Write it out, everything that you would want to say to that person, because energetically you're still closing it up. By letting it out, giving it a voice, admitting I was out of my mind, or I didn't know better and I did something that I would never do from the mind state that I have now, and I allow myself to grow. And I'm not that person anymore, but I'm still responsible for the things that I did when I was. There's great power in that. You are not here to endlessly apologizing for being human. You are here just as anyone else on a journey to reconnect with your greatest essence. And your job is to carry yourself through all of it with grace and compassion. Once again, the only time that you should be worried if you keep repeating the same loops and you keep doing the same things over and over again. An apology is changed behavior, and as long as you're doing that and you choose to live your life from your heart and to let go of all the darkness that has been a part of your life, from all the darkness that you have put out in the world as a result of that. And you turn back to yourself and you choose to keep connecting with the heart and live from the soul. then you are doing such a good job. You can take so much pride in that. Because it's not easy. There's a lot of darkness in the world. It is inherently connected with life, but that is the thing. Sometimes we have to feel the darkness to get back to the light. That's what we are here for. And you can take so much pride in the fact that you keep choosing for the light. And that is the decision. Do you keep looping the darkness, or do you choose light? Not only for yourself, but also for the people around you. Because if you choose to keep serving your guilt and shame and all the things that live in the dark, you make those exact things your God. You have to start serving the right God. Reconnect with your heart, with who you truly are. Because you are not guilty for the fact that you made certain decisions when you was in pure survival mode. But you are responsible for who you choose to be right now. You don't need to justify the past to make yourself free from it. You just have to choose to stop identifying yourself with the person who made certain choices and move differently. Use the data, collect it, transmute it, and become better. That's all you need to do. Choose how you want to move forward from now on. And make a decision that you are worth it with all your imperfections. You are still worth it. Because you choose to become a better person. You choose to move forward with the right energy, and you choose to take responsibility. And that is all you can do as a human being. That's it for now. Ik ga het hierbij laten. And I see you in the next one. Oh, by the way, I've created the 5 Gates initiation of feminine liberation, a full recalibration of your emotional landscape with the purpose of integration. So if you are interested in that, as I said, it is a full recalibration of your emotional landscape. I have a whole process that I've created myself, and I've created everything myself. I've even designed everything myself, because last moment I felt like, no, I cannot send this to a designer. I have to do it myself. Hence, I'm not a designer. So it cost me a lot of time. But the result is that I have a beautiful product to make sure that you can go deeper with yourself, ask yourself the right questions. And there is like 8 bonuses in it. Goes very deep into guilt, navigating toxic relationships, addictions, reclaiming your elements. You will have to see it for yourself, but even one of those bonuses can completely change everything for you if you let it. So if you are interested in that, you can find the link in the description. I also have a guide and a book integration guide, because we know it all, but integration is the only way to truly transform your life. So I've created that for complete self-mastery. That specific product is more attached to the left hemisphere of the brain, so it's more action-orientated. If you struggle with discipline, making things happen, bringing your dreams into fruition, knowing exactly who you are and how to move forward, step by step explained, you will have no questions anymore after that. It is exactly what I needed when I was struggling, hence why I created it. The 5 Gates is more like deep inner work and integration. The other one is planmatic and integration. Great, even the combination of those, perfect. If you're interested, link in the bio, and I see you in the next video. I was just in the kitchen cooking. No joke. No, but I was thinking about this. Again, I told you that shame and guilt thrive on secrecy, right? You have to take small steps and teach yourself that it is safe to be imperfect, that you are still worthy of love, even if you've made mistakes, that you don't want anyone to know. Go back at what we discussed in the beginning. That you are scared to be ostracized. That the opinions of others literally leading to your death. That's not true. That's first of all, you have to see there's no danger. Yeah? There's no danger at all. There's only lessons and growth and responsibility. So the best thing you can do to make yourself free of it is addressing it head on. And it sounds, trust me, it sounds so big and it sounds impossible because you've made it this big, scary monster because you have kept it in the dark for so long without addressing it. So you gave it a place of extreme power over you. Allow yourself to be seen in the worst things that you have ever done in life. And gift yourself with the experience of, oh, it's nothing. I've made it this big thing. I've made it this big. And it will lose its power over you, I promise. 90% of the things that you are carrying with you aren't even yours. They are installed in you by people that couldn't deal with their own skeletons in the closet. So now they are in your closet and you have to pull them out. So they lose power over you. They lose power over your story and they lose power over your future. Take your power back. I promise that is the way to go. Attack. Attack. It's not bigger than you. You are bigger than it. You gave it power and you have the power to take its power away.